a protocol in place? Do we need a stricter protocol? What could be done to improve that event so a worse one does not occur?
I'd like to know more about that event before we answer that.
I can ask the mother to call you. She was
Please
still
do.
very upset, not to speak on behalf of her, but she was.
Yeah, again, I don't, like, from what I understand about what I've heard, and just from, like, my experience with the parking lot is that, I know Dr. Carpluck and Mr. Manning is both out there all the time, helping direct traffic and making sure everything's okay, and from what I understand about the story, is that the reason it wasn't notified to the administration right away was, simply because it wasn't that severe, and so because he was coherent, the boy that was hit made the call himself. I would imagine that because it is crowded, then I know I don't think anyone would just leave someone on the ground and drive away. Like if it had been more severe, 911 would have been called right away by someone. But because, like, from what I understand, the boy that was hit talked to the kid that hit him and was like, made him call himself. So
Yeah.
just because it wasn't as severe, that's why the events that unfolded. That's
You
why.
know
it
what
happened.
my first thought on that was the actress Natasha Richardson, when she had the ski accident.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I mean, that's the insecure assumption you can make. It appears that it's not that severe, but if he had hit the side of his head, had a soft tissue concussion, it could have been much more severe. Or if he had, fallen and cracked a rib and had an internal spleen rupture, those symptoms don't always appear right away.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that if an event occurs, there's a rapid response that does everything in the best interest to secure the safety and well-being of our kids.
Right.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything for the
Yeah, just real quick. Like, I'm just wondering out loud, I guess, about you keep talking about protocol and such, and what would happen. But because Sherman said it's a really crowded parking lot, there are other students there, and I understand that. You were obviously his mother was worried, and 911 was called, and he was sent to the hospital. But does there need to be specific adjustments to staff and to principals being out in the parking lot if there's something like Good Samaritan law where the other students are there to help him? If he had been hurt, they could have notified the school nurse, but he went through another route. Because it's on school property, does it have to be through the school that the nurse was notified, then he was sent, then the nurse called 911, or was it okay that his mother found out and then she called? Because I know as a student, my first response, if I was injured, would be call 911 and then notify my parents. I wouldn't be running to the school nurse to say, I'm hurt, what do I do?
The protocols that govern what we do, some of them are for physical education classes, some of them are for athletics. Those are very specific. But if you've listened to the conversation, Charlie said, this is what I've heard. Other people said, this is what I heard. Carol said, this is what I've heard. I don't have enough detail to really answer that. Sue's question was, are there protocols? Yes, there are. But I would like to find out, what is the time? We know it's sometime after school, but I really can't comment on it until I know a little bit more about it.
Okay.
Is there any other open public? Yes.
Just I'm sorry, John Morrell from Edinburgh. Just a question on the busing. Something I hadn't been clear on as long as there was a busing discussion going on. We have the Mendon Township and we have Washington Township busing. Is there a reason we don't bid that beyond Mendon Township and Washington Township?
Yeah. Yeah. We looked into that as an option for the board, and what we found is that because of the K-8 districts that own their own buses, that they can provide what's called the tiering of busing, which means that they pick up the elementary, then the middle school, or I think it's high school, elementary, and then middle school kids. Is that right? Is that the order? Anyway, they tier it, and there's a greater efficiency because those buses are able to pick up more kids. Whereas if we went to an outside company, which we did look at a proposal like that, they'd only be able to, unless they could convince the K-8s to do away with their busing system and join us, they wouldn't get that advantage.
Well, I guess my question then would be, how recently was that looked at? And then my second question would be, the private companies tier as well. Some tier 2, some tier 3. And I would think that if it hasn't been looked at in the last year, it doesn't.
Well, yeah, it was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago. That was my only question. Thank you.
Transportation is part of, not really a part of education, but it's part of our cost. I think that's one of the issues that would be looked at.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I just saw the agenda. I agree, it should be.
And even, from a taxpayer's point of view, even if we change something, the K-8, it's not in the borough, but in the township or Washington Township, they still have those buses, and those K-8s are still having, taxpayers are still paying transportation costs they're incurring, and then they have to change their, as Doug said, they have to change their system as well to really achieve cost savings. So it's a multi-part approach that would have to be undertaken to really elicit savings, because you have to do it across the board. You're not going to really save your taxpayers any money.
I don't disagree, and I understand the whole 5-town philosophy, but Jackie, you and I both live in the borough, and we have one bus for the entire town.
What?
We have one bus for the entire town.
Two. One for one end.
Is it 2? We have 2.
Because 90% of the kids don't take the bus.
Correct.
Any other questions from the public?
It sounds to me like what we need to do is get Menham Township and the West Marsh Regional High School District together to bid it out for Menham High School, and then the West Marsh Regional High School District and Washington Township to get together to bid it out, and to offer the outside vendors all 3 levels, all 3 tiers, and then it would work. Then we could do it.
Sounds very reasonable.
Any other questions or comments from the public? No close to the public, and everybody, I'm going to have to, and